And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 11th episode of System Link. I'm really impressed I actually remembered that. Joined, as always, by my co-host, Mike Hazelton from the Xbox Guide. We are here tonight talking Gamescom 2024. We've got a lot of our favourite picks to cover, some various trailers that we've been looking at over the last 24 hours, as mainly from Jeff Keighley's Gamescom Opening Night Live. Good evening to you, Mike. How are you doing?
Yeah, really good. Episode 11. Luckily, I put it in the file name for the videos. I think that's a bit of a hound.
I think the only reason why I've been able to remember that is because about half an hour ago that was there. So we're 11 episodes in. We're doing a Gamescom special, and I think this has been a really interesting overall event this year. There was a couple of real highlights from Summer Game Fest. Obviously, Xbox had their great showcase, but I felt like on balance, like the Summer Game Fest live show wasn't particularly thrilling. I think we touched on it briefly, didn't we, at the time? But certainly, I really enjoyed Gamescom Opening Night Live this year. I thought that was on balance, that was a very slick and very strong show, and some real left field surprises. Some stuff like Mafia that we'll get to a bit later tonight that completely was off my radar, even though I love that series. I hadn't seen anything on it for a long time, and it kind of came out of nowhere. Mafia: The Old Country is a prequel, which was really exciting, and obviously a few bits and pieces from, we're seeing Peter Molyneux pop back up again with Masters of Albion, which is a real surprise. So we've got plenty to cover. We were going to kick off this evening with a quick montage of some of the smaller titles and other bits and pieces we saw that were still interesting to us, but we wanted to kind of give a quick shout out to, which I'll put up in a sec. Good evening, everyone. Plug Socket, Big Manny. Good to see you both in chat. Plug socket. Going to have this on in the background while I visual design. See, that is the coolest way to multitask. Because I know what you're working on as well. You've been working on your game, which you've been sharing in our creativity channel on the Discord. So great that you've got us just chatting away in the background while you're making games, which is very cool. So let's kick us off. Let's get into this.
So I watched this on a delay of about half an hour. I think I was about half an hour behind. So for summer, I skipped a hell of a lot. I must have skipped about half the thing. And this, I think I skipped like 2 or 3 segments.
Yeah.
So it was really, and it was 2 hours long, I think. Yep. So it kept me engaged.
Really engaging, and actually that addressed, I think, a lot of the imbalance that came from Summer Game Fest. It seemed to be catering for some very specific genres. There was a lot of very similar looking games. This had a real broad spectrum, but also some quite big titles. Gamescom has sort of also evolved, possibly in the wake of E3, but I feel like Gamescom has become this much bigger event. Not just because obviously it's accessible to the public, but there is a lot more seemingly that publishers seem to be putting into it. Like Xbox's presence has been massive there.
Oh, it's huge.
Just 3 days worth of live streams, and it's that's like the DNC. But they've got, just generally across the various publishers, a lot going on. You know, Space Marine 2 is showing up in there, which looks fantastic. Real presence from a lot of these big players, and that's really nice to see, because Gamescom has kind of now become the E3. I think it's sort of...
It's the premier event. I watched the interview with Phil Spencer afterwards, which we'll come on to later, and he was saying they used to treat it as just like E3 Part 2. So whatever they demoed at E3, they'd show again at Gamescom, basically, but for consumers,
right,
or for European consumers. Whereas now they focus on having different stuff to show, and actually a lot of the trailers that they had at E3 are playable at Gamescom.
Yeah,
the Xbox games. So that's really good.
Yeah, I think Avowed was the big one there. Avowed and Towerborn both showed up playable, and I think Replaced possibly as well has popped up somewhere in here, which I know has been delayed, but yeah. Yeah,
and the press are having like hands-off demos of Indiana Jones and things like that. So
which is great. Just great to see that, cool. You know, in because I know we're not seeing it ourselves yet, but having the press get a good look at like an extended gameplay that's not edited. It's one of our criticisms, I think, of some of the trailers, is that they're sort of really curating sections of that gameplay and not showing us those extended sequences. So the fact that they're showing it now to press, that shows that they're a little bit more they've dated it now, you know, a little bit more confident perhaps in the finished product. So we'll get to our montage first. Let me pull that up on here. Mike has very helpfully labelled these to get us prepped for tonight. So this was King of Meat. First of all, actually funny, right? Like this,
because they had Jeff Keighley, like an animated version of Jeff Keighley, which I don't think is in this, but leading up to it, which was really well done and very funny. And I was a bit disappointed that he didn't make more of that, but it was really cool. I wasn't aware of this game prior to this, and obviously it kind of evokes Fall Guys and that subgenre of games that we have now. But there's a dungeon kind of building creativity element to it, isn't it? People are building these courses that people then have to run through. So I think that gives it a unique element that, you know, one of our criticisms has been you get all these copy and paste games. This certainly has that unique element to it.
Yeah, and actually it's a very brief shot there. I know we're slightly out of sync versus, you know, the stream versus obviously the recording, but the skeleton character with the big teeth really reminds me of the Grim Reaper from Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Good one,
really sort of tickles that kind of like that feeling and that look. Some of the voice acting too, I think, kind of definitely reminded me of that sort of slightly lewd adult targeting Rare game, you know, from back in the day. So yeah, really cool concept. I think that's gonna find an audience.
It doesn't look quite so physics-based. It looks like you have a lot more control over your movement and things compared to something like Fall Guys, or, you know, there's loads of those physics-based party games now. So I hope it's quite tactile and you have a lot of control over your characters and things.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this, so moving on now to Marvel Rivals, I think this has always shown well traditionally. As someone, I'm big into the MCU, and I like the fact that they're not trying to do the movie versions of these characters. They're kind of almost like creating their own canon. I wasn't too sure about this, about the Winter Soldier with the wacky sort of tentacle arm. I don't know whether there's precedent for that in the comics. But at the same time, I like that they're not just trying to copy and paste what we're seeing from like the Avengers films and everything that we're seeing sort of in the cinema side of things. So I think actually this given the the death of one of my favorite games, Rumbleverse, I have a real gap in my gaming right now for a sort of a melee based survival game. I think this could tick some boxes for me, potentially. Free to play as well, coming out at the end of the year. It's had some really good betas, and it's leveraging Unreal Engine 5, so we're seeing some of the destruction there
nice.
in there. Not quite on the level of the finals, but it's certainly, I've seen enough footage to know that it's not like the Battlefield Revolution thing where one big thing breaks. There's a lot of stuff. Yeah.
You like, if this isn't a success because it's got all the ingredients that it needs to be a success, then I think this kind of genre of games needs to have a rest, because if this can't make it work, then I don't think anything can.
For sure. And it's had such a positive reception from its closed beta now, so that they've got momentum. You'd think if at any point they were going to do this, now is the time to cash in. So here we have Genshin Impact. I'm not really familiar with this series at all. I don't have much of a history with this. Just
so you didn't just to say you didn't want to include this.
Yeah, because I didn't know what I could say.
Yeah, no, it's fair. Watching the interview with Phil, this was like Phil's the highlight of the show, or one of the highlights of the show for him, because I think it's such a moment. They often have an Asian game that hasn't been on Xbox that then comes to Xbox that they have at each of these showcases. I think this. It's similar to Power World, to Xbox having Power World when PlayStation didn't. Obviously, PlayStation have had this, and Xbox didn't. So it was kind of the converse, and now it's coming to Xbox. Apparently, 127 million people have downloaded it. So it's got that reach of Power World, but I think it's free to play. It's got the same sort of genre merging elements of Power World, but is a lot more polished and a lot more like a proper professionally, not to beef on Power World, but it looks like a proper game. And it's been out for a long time. It hasn't been on Xbox for a long time, but it's finally coming across. So I think it is a bit of a win for Xbox. It's not going to be a huge deal, but nice to have it coming across.
Especially Game Pass as well. Getting that sort of partnered in there is really nice. Civilization. We've got a long storied history with this series. Civ 7.
So this is a big one for me because it's consecutive simultaneous console launch, which is
I thought this was PC only.
Yeah, so that's a big deal. I haven't really gone deep on it yet, but you could see there's a boat sailing up the river, which is a new navigable rivers is a new thing for the series. They announced the new narrator as well, and it looks pretty good. The one thing in the back of my mind is Ara on Xbox looks a lot more modern. Civilization is always having to kind of iterate very, very gradually on the time-honored Civ way of doing things. They can't reinvent the wheel with it, whereas Ara has kind of done that, and they've got some previous Civilization devs in there, and it looks a lot better graphically and kind of mechanically than Civ. But if you like the Civ gameplay, I think this is what you'll go for. But I'm really interested in Ara as like a evolution of that genre.
Evolution. I think they've got room to sit alongside each other. I think there too. It's not not out of place. And then obviously Age of Mythology is the kind of like much more over the top, very sort of not shooting for that realism or historical touchstones. It's kind of more Greek mythology, isn't it, and things like that in there. Now, this, correct me if I'm wrong, is this tied in with the Life is Strange universe, or is it its own thing?
It's not, because the Life is Strange universe has gone to Square Enix, and there's a different developer. So this is that they've gone to make a game as similar to Life is Strange that they can possibly make without it being set in the same.
Because it's this Don't Nod, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think they lost the IP, which is why it's not Life is Strange. There's a Life is Strange game, but it's not Don't Nod, as far as I'm aware. And when I think we saw it at the Xbox showcase, it looked good. It had all the kind of Life is Strange vibes. Seeing this, the actual more of a focus on what the story will be that you're playing, that they're in this band and they get a package in the post and then presumably some weird shit goes down, helped me get more excited about the game. I think it looks really, really good as a massive fan of Life is Strange. So I will be getting this day one for sure. It looks brilliant.
Nice. Also, what a perfect time to release it up in February. Great choice there.
Yeah.
Now this really interests me because we've got kind of a back-to-back here. We've got Little Nightmares 3 and then Reanimal coming up next in our montage. And Tarsier Studios, who made Little Nightmares 1 and 2, aren't developing this third one with Bandai Namco. They've gone with Supermassive Games because Bandai own the IP. Tarsier, though, are making their own sort of a new IP.
Similar sort of thing.
With a very similar, and I wonder if perhaps there was a version of Reanimal that may have been what they were intending to do with Little Nightmares 3, but Bandai have gone in a different direction. However, Supermassive Games, I think, are some of the best horror developers. I mean, they made Until Dawn, they make Dark Pictures games, which I adore. For them to make a co-op Little Nightmares game, but made by Supermassive, very, very exciting just the premise of that studio, that team that is very, very comfortable in their process. Making a co-op version of this series the series has always been intriguing to me, but I've always wanted co-op from it, and I think this
felt like it's needed
desperately.
Co-op. I think it looks like a horror It Takes Two, which is just brilliant, and they've done a nice job of keeping it still kind of on the childish side. That's the whole point of the game. But then we'll see Reanimal is definitely moving away from that.
Yes, so that's where on paper you could look at these and think, well, is just Tarsier just making a version of this but renaming it? But Reanimal, especially this trailer, I love that THQ picked them up as well because they're just spending spree. But this trailer, I think, is one of the strongest trailers from Gamescom.
I think it was my favorite, possibly.
Right.
Yeah.
Outstanding visual design, and I think, is it also built for co-op? Is it 2-player?
Good question. I don't know.
I might live fact check that, because
I
thought this was actually, I think I've added it to my I've got it on Steam, on my wish list.
It's got massive Limbo vibes. I mean, Little Nightmares has got Limbo vibes, but this even stronger, but mainly because the graphical fidelity I think is a step up from what we've just seen with Little Nightmares.
Well, I just completely ruined the montage because, sorry to interrupt, because I hit my keyboard and it's now completely mashed it up. I'm so sorry. Technical fails. How can I skip through it? Let me skip through it. It won't let me. I'll go back to our chatty view because it's making me angry that I'm looking at King of Beat again. Yeah, the pedigree behind this, and the fact that, like you said, they're taking what perhaps Little Nightmares started as, but in a much darker, much more, I think, more like explicitly horror adult direction, is very, very exciting, I think.
I don't get many games day one unless they're on Game Pass, but Bloom and Rage would be definite day one for me, and Reanimal would be, and to be fair, if we're going to co-op Little Nightmares, then that has to be as well. And it's you can assume the price is going to be somewhat on the budget side.
Yeah. Yes. So to confirm, Reanimal, shared screen co-op and online as well.
Yeah.
Cross-platform. Fantastic. They've got cross-play as well in there. Brilliant. That's exactly the right way to do it. Single player and local and online co-op. It has a shared directed camera designed to maximize claustrophobia and tension. That's the bullet point from Steam. So,
It Takes Two has done a lot for that kind of co-op. I don't know what you call the genre really, but they're all borrowing a lot from Limbo. But you can see from Little Nightmares and Reanimal, they're borrowing a lot from It Takes Two as well.
Yes.
I don't think you could dismiss that as something that that team has done for the industry. It's really a real positive. Moving back toward kind of shared screen, focus on co-op. It's nice.
No, for sure. And to give the option of local shared screen and online as well, which again, we referenced Hazelight already with both It Takes Two and A Way Out. They have just completely they've cemented what the format should be. The friend pass, the fact you can play, you see the other player, in the split screen and all that.
Yeah.
Reanimal, obviously, with this shared screen space, even when you're online, I think is really smart. Looks like Little Nightmares is doing something very similar as well. Supermassive. Typically, though, not known for their simultaneous co-op. A lot of it's asymmetric, where you can have people vote on what should be the next dialogue choice in those Dark Pictures games. So it's nice to see them also branch out into a live co-op game as well with an established IP. They're also working on something, I forget the name of it, but they're making a game in the Dead by Daylight universe as well. They've taken a part of that license and are making a horror game around that, in that sort of bit like The Quarry, which was a spin-off, not part of the Dark Pictures, but they're doing that as well. So that they've done VR spin-offs of Until Dawn. Like, that team is cooking. They are busy, and it's really, really nice to see them getting those contracts and getting to make the games that they love. We'll talk a little bit about Directive 8020 later, which is the first part of the second season for Dark Pictures.
They've just got a formula where you can basically guarantee that the game is going to be of a certain standard. There's no question whatsoever that even Little Nightmares, which is a departure for them, you can basically guarantee it's going to be decent, which you can't say about too many games. And all the Dark Pictures games have a bar of quality. Some of them are, it goes up and down depending on the quality of the plot and things, but they're all really, really consistent. And it must be reassuring to know, we can make another Dark Pictures game, and it's going, because we've got this formula down now so expertly, they can be pretty confident of success.
Yeah, and that's where I think, because they've got that baseline of that formula, like you say, they know exactly the expected features of those games, the dialogue choices, the fact that multiple endings, seeing what they're now doing with 8020, which again, save it, we'll get there. But the idea of them being able to now have this systemic AI, and there's stealth gameplay, which they haven't really done before, just sounds really interesting. So again, they've got a really, really well established design foundation for a lot of those games, which again makes them all feel cohesive and also a logical developer choice if they're going to take on these other IP, like they're doing obviously now with Little Nightmares 3. So yeah, really, really strong. I think certainly for me, I was kind of, I don't know whether it was sort of part of some of our online platter stuff we've been playing sort of away from stream, but I've kind of felt like I wanted an It Takes Two type thing. I've been looking for a co-op game like that. We'd obviously played a little bit of Destiny 2 recently, but something that is is a mission-based or story-based campaign, linear, feeling that sense of progression level to level. And there's been a few games that have come out of Gamescom like this that I think really will tick those boxes for sure. And I'm definitely a day one on the games we've mentioned.
I have to say, story-focused games that you can play in co-op, or you can have your partner or someone watching you play them if it's a single player experience, but the plot is engaging enough, and you can cooperate and dialogue choice and stuff. That's probably my favorite genre now, to be honest, because we're basically just playing free to play stuff. There's not, we play a lot of FPSs and things, but I don't look forward to them particularly in the way that I look forward to stuff like I'll look forward to Bloom and Rage and Reanimal, and I can tell just by looking at the trailers that those are going to be massive hits for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think you've hit the nail on the head there, which is that sort of the notion that they're engaging enough for you to play solo with someone watching, and also give you the option of two-player co-op. Two-player co-op's powerful for me. I really... That's a very big draw for me, knowing that a game will let you play not a mode, but its campaign with someone else, local or online. It's always nice to have online as an option, but to have that in there, that's an immediate hook for me. I'm immediately interested to it.
Yeah, and I these games stick in my mind, like when I think about games of the generation and things, stuff like Limbo, and Inside, and The Quarry, and Life is Strange. All these story-based games I remember really vividly, whereas some of the shooters and stuff, like I'll remember one map of the multiplayer or something, and but it just doesn't evoke the same sort of memories in me as some of these fantastic story games.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. And interestingly, for nice segue here, but something that perhaps didn't really connect with either of us was Borderlands 4, which opened Jeff's opening night live. It was the kickoff of the show. I'm a big Borderlands fan. I really like the third game particularly. Played a lot of that. And this did nothing for me. It was just a sort of nice looking CG trailer that didn't even really imply that other than the fact that everyone guessed it was Borderlands because of 2K and perhaps some of the iconography here, but it really didn't have any sort of identifiable uniqueness to it particularly.
A bit weird, wasn't it?
It's just odd. Just an odd choice of trailer. The fact that they sort of turned around the mask. This felt like to me that they were hoping to capitalize on what they believed the Borderlands movie was going to be, like a huge success. Yeah. And then they were like, oh, well, yeah, we'll hit them with Borderlands. But just let's make a teaser. It's this. It just didn't quite connect with me. Just sort of the hype
I feel
of
like
it.
if it was that surprise factor, because it seems to be deliberately vague, but then they don't have to put 2K at the start. They don't have to use the font.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been more effective if it was like, what the hell's this? And then it just, at the end of the trailer, oh, it's Borderlands. Whereas this, it feels like it's arrogant to me. It's like people are going to be so happy to have a new Borderlands game. We can put whatever trailer out we like, and people will go crazy for it. And there is a portion of the fan base who have gone crazy for it, despite it not showing anything. But I think there was a cooler ways they could have done it.
Yeah, there's nothing. I mean,
2025 is a bit of a surprise for me.
It's sooner than we think. Then inherently, Borderlands is a story-driven co-op shooter. I mean, that is already interesting to me just on its premise. That the idea of a Borderlands 4, great. I'd love to check it out. I think maybe this was just a bad trailer. I think it was a bad way to reveal it. You'd want to, if I was designing this, opening night live with this, show the logo, cut back to Jeff bringing out a dev to do a demo. That's how you show.
That would have been fantastic.
Yeah,
it's obviously playable because it's out next year.
2025. It's got to be an alpha at this point. You know, if it's 2025, it's got to be. At the very least, they could have made a vertical slice that would have been demoable. I have a bias here too. And not only do I think this is a bad trailer, I just don't think CG trailers generally work. And I've seen some great ones. I've seen great, really well directed ones. But again, they're not the things that stick with me either. It's when you connect it to gameplay and you sort of see maybe like the best CG trailers. Like I remember the ones for the finals when they first showed it. It might have been in engine actually rather than CG, but there was gameplay mechanics in the trailer. So you could draw something from it. And that's something where I think that CG trailers can be effective because you can then take things and reasonably extrapolate what the game is then going to be. I remember the State of Decay 3 CG reveal I hated because it was just it was just woman in snow with zombie deer, and then it went State of Decay 3, and you're like, there's nothing to be gleaned from this. I have to say,
that's still better than this trailer, which is telling you a lot about how bad this trailer is.
Yeah, it is, because at the very least, I had information. A very, very basic piece of information that I think they could have massively expanded on. This didn't give us anything.
This was...
Yeah, no, it was a low bar, certainly.
I don't know if they feel like Borderlands, you know what you're going to get, so they don't need to show you, kind of.
Yeah, and they've had... I mean, I was hoping, actually, that before we got Borderlands 4... that they might continue the spin-off route that they did with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, because actually I played that with Burly from Burly and a T. Tune in now, available now on YouTube. But we played that game for hours together and had a blast. The sort of Dungeons and Dragons style spin-off of that game, really, really cool way to expand that universe. I was kind of hoping they'd do more down that route before we got another mainline title. I really do think this is a case of them thinking, well, we got a surefire hit with the movie. Let's get that game announced 2 weeks after opening weekend with Jeff at Gamescom. We're going to open the show with it, guys. It's going to, really, really not a good bet there.
There are apparently a lot of elements in the trailer that, like at the end, this whatever it is flashes up. So I think there's some stuff for people to dig into and try and get some stuff. But that's not. That's not a good trailer still, just because you've put some Easter eggs in bits of information in the trailer. But yeah, just there's possibly some more context that will come out.
Yeah. Krisha, good evening. New account because it logged me out. All right, no worries. Glad you managed to get that sorted. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's great. Really helpful. So yeah, thank you for tuning in. Always good. So we got a little shadow drop here from Xbox and Bethesda with the Starfield Rev 8, where they added the first ground vehicle into the game. This actually came out a little quicker than I was expecting. I wasn't expecting this until after Shattered Space.
I thought it would land with Shattered Space.
Yes, yeah, maybe that, or just shortly afterwards, maybe at the end of the year.
It was a nice surprise.
Yeah, and
it's good.
Yeah, it's another thing actually, because I had two main sort of issues with Starfield that kind of I've held off really getting into it, which was the lack of a performance mode at launch and lack of vehicles because of the size of the planets and the way they handle the procedural generation. So now they've added both. I am very keen to jump back in now.
And they didn't want to do a performance mode because it was an artistic decision.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want to put vehicles on planets because it was a gameplay choice to have people walk everywhere.
Yeah.
And then, well, somehow we've got both. And I was watching a Phil interview, and he was like, "I've been saying to Todd constantly, put vehicles in the game, Todd," which is funny because, like, I feel like Todd Howard is the only person that Phil Spencer talks about like that.
Yeah, totally.
He's normally really respectful of the developers,
but in this case, stop. Put it in, Todd.
Yeah.
Come on, buddy. I'm calling the shots here, pal. But yeah, no, I agree.
It seems basically unlimited what you can do with the vehicle. I think they have a picture of it in some of the built-up areas on the planets, like the hub planets and things.
Yeah, which is great.
I need to try it out, and it'll definitely get me back in.
Yeah, for sure. Hope, good evening. Hi, thank you for jumping on and tuning in. So this is a big win for me. Actually, I was really, really excited to see this, especially as a shadow drop too. I think that's going to get... I hope they're tracking the stats on the game sort of over the next 48 hours and seeing how many people have maybe jumped back in that have lapsed on it, just to give it a little revisit. And it's you talk about, the preserving the experience, and we hadn't intended for a performance mode or vehicles. That reminded me so much of Sea of Thieves when they were like, we're never going to add AI ships into this, and they absolutely just filled the game with skeleton crews. I forget there was something else. It was sort of like they've got versions of storage now. It's not exactly what you'd want, but like they've done some things with that.
You can have your own ship that persists, the damage persists, and the customization on the ship persists, which they said they weren't going to do.
Yeah, but then it's okay, isn't it? Like it's sort of, and this will definitely come up. I mean, this is, I suppose, relevant for us to kind of segue into now. But it's okay for developers to change their mind. I don't know how much Phil Spencer has changed his mind. We'll get to indie obviously later, but with the Indiana Jones on PS5 thing. Because, he kind of unequivocally said that... Well, what he actually said because I went back and watched it for tonight. What he'd said originally in that terrible business update podcast was Indy and Starfield are not one of the 4 games coming in the initial batch. But we're watching, we're listening, and we're going to see where we go. So...
How would we're getting ahead of ourselves. How would Indiana Jones be one of the 4 games? Because it wasn't coming out for like 18 months after, so it was irrelevant. If he's playing that technicality, it wasn't. I was talking about the 4 games that were coming out like in 2 weeks. Well, obviously it's not Indiana Jones.
And although at the time though they didn't actually date or name the 4 games that were coming.
2 weeks. I know I was being
but that's where I think the technicality has come into play, where a lot of people, the apologists, have tried to use that as a kind of, well, he didn't give a date to the 4 or a window for the 4 and said that wasn't part of the 4, and it wasn't, which is fine. But I do think if at that point, when you're then technically, now we know the date for Indiana Jones being December, when you're 6 months away from releasing that game, a PS5 version exists. There's no way that they've started developing that since the business update. No way.
It needed to wait. But I would have been confident, Phil saying it's not one of the 4 games, I would have been confident that they wouldn't announce a PS5 version before Indiana Jones came out.
Mm-hmm.
And that they've announced it before. That's the real issue. On this, the problem I have is that I don't think it's a case of them changing their minds about vehicles or performance mode. I think it's they couldn't do it. They didn't have time to do it.
Yep.
and they made up an excuse, and that's what I don't like, is that they lied to the audience. There's no way
Yeah.
it was like, oh, it has to be 30 frames. I don't want us to put vehicles in. And we could. Like this guy in the corner, he's got vehicles playable, but it doesn't work. It's not fun. Let's just not put it in. They just ran out of time, and as Bethesda do, shut the game out when it's half.
And didn't want to delay anymore either. They didn't want to delay it. They want to risk any bad press. So then, and then it becomes
say say at the time a performance mode is coming, vehicles are coming. Just don't.
Which I suppose that's the thing though, is and I don't know what I would prefer in this instance, because look at Redfall. We were promised this, and this. The DLC, obviously, there was supposed to be added new heroes, and they were selling season passes, and then they cancelled the game and shut the studio. Had to refund all of those things because they announced very early that this was our intention for the roadmap post-launch. So there's also a devil's advocate to that, which is that probably Bethesda did themselves a favour, learning from that experience, that actually don't commit too early. Treat this like a post-launch thing that we're going to hold a bit closer to our chest. I think the problem that they had, though, is that they said that it was never going to happen and it was an artistic choice. That was the mistake.
Yeah,
that was
in the same way that the space travel, flying down to planets and stuff. They haven't said at any point like, oh, that'd be great. We just didn't have time to do it. There's no way they think that's the best way to have it, because it's not. It's just not, from a gameplay perspective, isn't the best way to do it. And there's now mods and stuff which kind of improves that experience. And
we've seen the best version of that in No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky was the best version of going from space to planet and back again with no loading.
Yeah. I'm disappointed we didn't have this show at the time, because there's a lot we could say about Starfield. All they have to do is you get to the planet and it shows a video of you flying through the atmosphere. That's if they can't do like you actually steer the ship down to the planet, which I can appreciate is a technical challenge. Give us just a CG thing while the game's loading that looks like you're still in gameplay, but you don't actually have control of the ship. It's not.
It just locks you into a path, and then it might cut to another perspective where you see the ship fly over, cuts back to you, then coming into port, land out, and then you carry on. I reckon it's time. I think you kind of made the suggestion there about time to implement. I think they bloated. It got so big, and they realized that we got to get this thing out. We need to hit our date. So
wouldn't surprise me if that comes with a future update.
Okay, we eventually get that.
That's quite a big change to the game, but I think if they're really focusing on proper quality of life features like vehicle, which is a big addition, like fundamental change to the gameplay, that would be the next one. If they really want to try and do a definitive edition where it's going to score better than the original game did, I think maybe they'll look at that. It would be nice.
Yeah, no, I think that's interesting, and that would be very interesting also if we're going to time that with a PS5 release. What a great way to capture some attention.
Well, I was a bit. We'll come on to it again.
We'll get to
Indiana
it.
Jones,
well, I was going to say actually, we've got our order, but I'm happy. We're on the topic now.
Okay,
We'll go in because it's the hot topic, and I think we've discussed this before, that there are seas changing in the industry right now, especially when you look at those top 10s. You look at what people are actually playing on Xbox and PlayStation and Steam, and if you just took the main sort of console competitors, Switch being its outlier because Nintendo have 30 years of IP that they're leveraging, it's always been its own thing. Without Sega now, they're in competition with no one. They're just doing their own thing. But it's Xbox and PlayStation, and when you look at those top played lists, there are no exclusives in any of them. Not even 10th place contains like a Last of Us or Uncharted Horizon or Forza, Halo or Gears. Right? There's not there. So exclusives, I think, matter to your early adopters, the people that want to buy your console as early as possible. They matter to the people that are brand loyal, that have decided, well, I'm a PlayStation owner, I want to be here. Oh, wow, The Last of Us Part 3 has been announced. Amazing, I'm really excited for that. They matter to that audience, but that is not a growth audience, I don't think, personally. And I've been really chewing this over, wanting it relating to this. So the notion of Xbox, I don't think sort of trying to go third party, but having exclusivity on certain titles for a window is actually a very smart play. They have seen the success with Sea of Thieves became one of the top selling games on the PlayStation Store. And it was in a year where PlayStation hasn't had an off year by any stretch. Like, I hate that narrative of saying, PlayStation had no games this year. That's why Sea of Thieves did well. No, they've had Helldivers 2. They've had oh fuck, I forgot the name of the game. Shit. It was a Japanese game, sword fighting. Shit, I've completely forgotten it. That's gonna really bug me. But we've got Astrobot coming. We've had Stellar Blade. There you go, Stellar Blade. That was the game I was thinking of. And it hit. It did really well for them. So it's not like they've had a bad year, and that's allowed Xbox to kind of muscle in some of their territory. The problem I think Xbox have had now, especially coming off the back of this indie announcement, is I think the exclusivity window is too short. I think it should be a year.
Xbox has had a really bad year for releases, and there's no excuse for that, really, given the number of teams they have now. And every year we're saying, finally, we're going to have a year where there's loads of games. I completely agree the exclusivity window's too short. So short that it's basically not worth doing. So short that I think it's a time issue, and that if they could release them simultaneously, they would. There's a tiny bit of optics in it. Like, it's good that Xbox has got exclusivity for like a quarter, but it's also means there's going to be patches by the time the PlayStation version comes out. The PS5 Pro is probably going to be out. Yeah. And the better version will be on PlayStation, which isn't good optics for Microsoft. And we were talking offline about, is it the license issue? Is there some sort of Indiana Jones thing that means it has to be multi-format? But then at the FTC trial, they said it was exclusive. Phil obviously said it was exclusive. Well, he had his caveated statement in the business update. What doesn't make sense to me is, why is Hellblade 2 still not on PlayStation? That's the obvious one. It in my opinion, did relatively badly on Xbox and PC,
and has a history on PlayStation 2, right? Because it was
and is a PlayStation genre more than an Xbox genre.
It looks like a PS5 game. It looks like something you'd find from one of like a Sony first-party studio. It always has, and that Ninja Theory were independent and released on PlayStation, so it was before they were bought out. So
and Starfield, I don't. For me, I get what you're saying with Starfield. Like, a definitive edition is when it should come to PlayStation, but it could have easily come with the DLC. That for me was a logical time, because I think a lot of the hype about Starfield has gone now, and I doubt it's selling on Xbox at all or PC now, because if you wanted it, you would have bought it back then. Maybe the vehicles, people who saw it when it came out and said, I don't want to get it because of the boring planets and stuff, will buy it.
Yeah, and actually, I think Shattered Space might give that a little boost, because I actually really liked the trailer for Shattered Space. They showed some real variation in their like planet design. I think that is going to cause a little uptick for that game. But in terms of its big sales, it's not big numbers. That ship sailed.
I think it will boost player counts, but I don't know if you would be aware that looks different to the rest of the game if you haven't already owned the game and played it and got bored.
That's fair.
So Sea of Thieves was apparently done. They've said, it's leaked, that it sold 1 million copies on PlayStation, which is great for an old game. It's in my head, it was going to be Hellblade, and then Starfield, and then Indiana Jones, and then whatever. To have Indiana Jones as the first one, they might not even do Hellblade. They may not think it's worth doing because of how. I'm saying it did badly. We've got no confirmation it's done badly, but that's just going off the chart positions, like you were saying. It basically charted for a week and then dropped out.
And also it went very quiet very quickly as well. There was that element too. The sentiment, I don't think, was particularly enthusiastic for it necessarily.
So it's just an odd one, and the way it was announced was really, really bad.
Well,
for Xbox.
Yeah, so let's look at this. So, I mean, I've just started the trailer now. It's playing in the background, just on mute for the time being. But I do want to, let's unmute the bit when we get there. We'll unmute the bit where Jeff sort of wraps up
Yeah.
the segment, right?
On the trailer, it was an interesting decision to have Troy Baker basically doing the trailer. Because my criticism of the trailers were that they weren't they were gameplay, like we said, but it's like snappy cuts from section to section, very action focused, which isn't necessarily what Indiana Jones. Well, it's an action film, but there's a much more focus on exploration and puzzle solving in this one, which was a positive for me. I would have liked to see more like a 1 minute segment of gameplay or something, but
yeah,
they've also released more information about the puzzle solving and stuff. If I see that clip of the circle being drawn on the map one more time, it's just every single trailer. It's like he says that line about the circle. It's just we've seen it. Okay, show us something new.
This game's called The Great Circle. Here's another circle. Yeah, no, and I think there's definitely an Indiana Jones trope of like showing like traveling by map. That's the thing I get a bit sick of, is I've seen the linked line traveling across the map in every one of those films, and it's used a lot in this. I actually think the one thing I really liked the look of in this that showed well was the actual first person melee combat. The actual fist fighting looked really, with the blocking, looked really physical and heavy, and that was really nice. I don't think it was particularly consistent visually. I think there's some parts that looked a lot better than others. But again, we're seeing snapshots. We're seeing, there's no sort of chance to really sort of dig in, and this bit with the camera was probably the longest sequence of without anything cutting.
It's hard as well, because my concern is, given the developer history, is it's going to be really shooty, which isn't what it should be. And because the combat looks so physical, I'm hoping that you'll almost be discouraged from doing that too much.
Yeah. So no, yeah, and it plays into indie. So here we go. So this is Jeff at the end.
Of mystery to explore, but you're probably wondering when the game comes out, right? Well,
so he talks about date showing that on there, but I just think treating a PS5 announcement with such a short exclusivity
Indiana
window
Jones and the Great
as a
Circle is
one
coming
more
out
thing.
this December for Xbox Game Pass
was
and
a
PC.
mistake.
When I was watching it, because it had leaked,
there is
people were saying it was
one
going to be
more
Forza. I don't know what they
the
were.
Machine Games
Maniacs.
Bethesda.
Where have they been held to account for that?
But this is the point. Like, it makes more sense. I don't know if it makes more sense for it to be Forza because it's such a tentpole Xbox title, but it made more sense for it to be an older game, because the 4 games were old. Relatively,
right,
some of them
before
were
we
newer
wrap
than
up,
others, but they were older games. So Hellblade 2 would have made sense, Forza would have made sense, Starfield would have made sense. This is the first time. The reason you said it's a sea change moment. This is a new game. It's not even out yet, and we've got confirmation that it's going to PlayStation. It's single player. It's not a free-to-play game. It's not a games as a service game, which is the PlayStation reason for stuff like Helldivers going to PC. It's a single-player narrative game. There's no reason other than revenue to put it on PlayStation. There's no concern about player counts. So
maybe that's it, actually. Maybe that is truly, when we really read into what Phil's been saying on Gamescom this week, where he talked about the opportunities we've been given, and he's referring to Microsoft investing in Xbox, allowing the Activision buyout and all the FTC stuff, that they need to show results, and those results look like revenue for them. So from a purely business sense, what's the thing that's going to get me money? Well, it's going to be, people are going to be encouraged to get Game Pass because it's a big game. Great, it's Game Pass day one, let's get Ultimate. They've already announced that most people have Ultimate. That's the package they're on for Game Pass proportionally. And then less than 4 or 5 months later, we are selling full price copies of this on another platform. And that is going to generate revenue for them. Is it going to allow them to take over PlayStation and console sales next gen? Probably not, because this strategy will make people go, well, I could just wait this much time and I'd get it there. But then if they're not now reliant on a box needing to outsell another box, if this is the big play, that actually it's more about Xbox as a brand being in different places, we're going to cater to our, like we mentioned earlier, the people that want to play the first-party games day one. They'll get the hardware day one. We'll cater to that, but that is a small, relatively speaking, small audience. The problem is, when you've got PlayStation has both. They have that core audience that is very PlayStation-centric, very, very hungry for their first party. But they also, I think, like Nintendo, have an element of that mass market appeal. There are people I know that don't play a huge amount of, like, a variety of games that will just get the next PlayStation because it's PlayStation. So they have that. Xbox, I don't think, quite has that to the same, perhaps, degree or same quantity.
But I don't know who is buying Xbox consoles other than people that are invested in Xbox and
Exactly.
feel that affinity because there's just no reason to. When I was watching it and they said we got one more thing to announce, I still, even though it had leaked, I couldn't believe they were going to do it. I was expecting it to just be on the end slate of have the trailer,
and then it just fades in.
Have the Xbox date and then just say PS5 coming 2025. They don't even have to say, like, what do they say? Spring. They don't have to say. They don't have to narrow it down like that. It's just
put a year on it.
It's like really stabbing the Xbox fans in the.
It should be December 25 for me. If you're gonna do that, it should be December 25. But then you have then next year Xbox. We've got Doom: The Dark Ages. We've got South of Midnight. We've got Fable. We've got some huge hitters that are going to be Xbox this year. We're not going to get they're not going to appear anywhere else this year. That's what you do.
What's the advantage to announcing it before it comes out on Xbox? I don't understand. Other than there's a bit of hype, because I saw Dreamcast guy saying "Oh, Indiana Jones looks brilliant." Of course he says.
Oh, it's so funny because he's been shitting on it. I can't stand him, by the way. I mean, but this, by the way, I have something on this, by the way, because I know we've talked about Gaz as well from Septic Source, who is amazing, by the way. I think he's fucking great. But I have an impression of Dreamcast guy. I've been working on this. I wanted to workshop. I'm going to do this live, which is his thumbnails that he does. Yeah, this is my impression of his thumbnail. It's variations of that. And he has to sit there taking 200 shots to get to the right photo for his work, which is great.
I obviously the content is bad, but I'm starting to actually enjoy watching his stuff now because he's got he opens it in the same way each time, and if you treat it like Gaz's stuff, sometimes if you treat it as satire, he isn't doing it as satire, he's doing it to get clicks and views. But if you treat it as I'm just going to watch this guy because he's funny, it's actually quite enjoyable.
Yeah, if you're able to elevate above it and treat it like a parody, I suppose that's where it's okay. We know it's not, and maybe that helps too, is you know he's actually being serious with this sort of console bashing. Big Manny coming into the chat just saying, I don't know how they can make an Indiana Jones game when they already made a perfect one called Lego Indiana Jones. I actually really enjoyed those old games. I think Lego Indiana Jones, it might have been that or the Star Wars games where they started sampling dialogue from the films and putting them actually into the game. So they never got they never had Harrison Ford in a Lego Indiana Jones game, but they I'm pretty sure it was either that or maybe one of the Lord of the Rings ones where they took Ian McKellen as Gandalf and put some of his dialogue in the game. I always remember those Lego games being such a blast for that exact reason. Just generally into chat, do any of you, because we've talked about this as well with Indiana Jones, is I don't know if it's quite the draw of an IP that it used to be, particularly given that the last couple of films haven't maybe performed as well. I like Dial of Destiny was good, but the previous one before that, the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, that needs to go in the bin. Do any of you have any history with Indiana Jones? So just in chat right now, have any of you seen the films? Have you played any of the Lego games? Any of the other previous? There was an Xbox Indiana Jones game that I really liked, by the way, the original one. Have any of you got any affinity with this series? So Xbox are really pushing this. They're really sort of drumming home. This is one of their big holiday titles. It's coming out in December. Do any of you right now have any sort of affinity for or connection with Indiana Jones? Big Money coming in as well. The more recent Lego games have a lot of the actors reprise their roles. I didn't know that. That's really cool. And Hope saying straight away, no history with it at all. So that's interesting. I played the Lego when I was younger. I never watched the film. So played the Lego game but haven't watched the films. Interesting. Okay. Thank you for that, guys. Appreciate that. That's interesting feedback on that. I don't have anything wrong with if this is where the industry is moving. Those barriers have been coming down for years. Crossplay becoming a thing, becoming ubiquitous almost. You're sort of surprised now when games go, we won't have crossplay at launch, and that's the oddity now. So, and we're seeing PlayStation games on PC. Xbox has been on PC for ages. They've done their experiment and seen success with releasing games sort of case by case on PlayStation. Those barriers are coming down. There's a swing towards that. But I don't think they're leaving it enough time to allow their console and their subscription to feel like it's special. That it's enough to be unique.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. I think, in a way, it would have been better to launch it simultaneously, because then they could have said the real benefit is it's on Game Pass.
Game Pass.
You can play it now on Game Pass effectively for free, or you can pay £70 and play it on PlayStation. Obviously, it's the same argument, but you can play it in whatever 4 months' time. But the people who are watching people streaming it on Twitch and stuff, they don't have a way to play it at launch,
right?
Other than if it's a cloud-enabled Game Pass game, you don't.
I would imagine so. It's Bethesda, so they don't have any of the Activision. But then they're doing this with Call of Duty. Call of Duty's that exact premise. You could play it as part of your Ultimate sub, or pay £70.
I meant to mention this. We talked last week about how is there this thing about they can't talk about Game Pass with Call of Duty, and the Call of Duty trailer didn't mention Game Pass.
Nope, just had the platforms in it.
Yeah, and all the other Game Pass games said play it day one with Game Pass, but Call of Duty didn't have it. So what's that about?
That's got to be some weird clause, like the Deathloop thing being like PlayStation exclusive for a year and Microsoft had to honor it. Ghostwire Tokyo is the same thing. Like it released a couple months after Deathloop, and that was still within their exclusivity window. So, yeah, it's
such a short exclusivity window. If you were making an exclusivity deal, you would never make one that's like, oh, we get 3 months of exclusivity.
Yeah,
it's just pointless.
Yeah.
So I think it's not ready to launch simultaneously. Someone at Microsoft has said we need some more returns from what you're doing, and they thought, okay, well, let's do Indiana Jones, and Bethesda have said we can do it, but it will be 4 months late, and that's what we've got.
Shows
it
shows perhaps how quickly they can port it too, because I do think that PS5 version has existed for a little while, but I do think it's still that's still relatively new for them.
Talking about the barriers coming down, which I do agree with, but I think it's a different situation. And the next step from this is for Gears, Forza, or Halo to go. That will be the next sea change moment. This is a sea change moment because the game's not out yet as single player. But I can't imagine Spider-Man, Insomniac. That's not going to come to Xbox. It's not going to come to Xbox. I can't see it coming to Xbox in 10 years. An Insomniac developed Spider-Man game.
And
I just don't see that ever happening.
The streaming era, both for TV shows, movies, and obviously now games, has opened it's opened my eyes to a lot of the sort of the weird contractual obligations that you have. Like Paramount Plus, for instance, advertising itself as the home of Star Trek, but for 6 months after it launched, you could still watch 6 of the 11 Star Trek films on Netflix. Like there was some really strange things with that. Yeah, with an objectively easier way of accessing them and watching them. So there's been so much of that. You had that with the Netflix Marvel shows. Marvel weren't allowed to use any of Daredevil, the Punisher, or any of those characters for 2 years after the cancellation of the show. And those shows then just didn't exist for a while. So there's all those sort of weird contractual things that streaming seems to have, and obviously, and now in the games industry, it seems to have kind of seeped its way in.
Not been a massive benefit for consumers.
No, not particularly at all. And that's where, and you've seen enough now with sort of the exclusive licenses or timings with DLC. We've seen that happen now with games more and more. As much as I do think those walls are coming down, we are seeing the sort of we're in a weird crossover period. It's not quite there yet in terms of that ubiquitous nature of these games just launching everywhere. It's just not. It's not there.
I think it's helpful from Phil Spencer's perspective to say this is the way the industry's going. You know, we're just ahead of the curve. It's the way the industry's going, but I think only up to a point. I don't think it's going to ever be the case that Nintendo have got all the PlayStation and Xbox games on. PlayStation have got all the Nintendo and Xbox games on. It's just not going to happen. That's not how the industry works. I agree that certain games like Marathon and Helldivers make sense. Would go multi-platforms to keep the communities going, but single player games, I just don't know why, if you've got the install base of Sony, of PlayStation, why you would ever put those games on Xbox, which has a much smaller install base.
Right, there's no
maybe
benefit
if you
there.
could get them on Nintendo. Oh, obviously we've got the Horizon Lego game going to Nintendo, but that's an obvious kind of unique situation, I feel like.
Yeah, and that's... It's very different, isn't it, when you're looking at single player versus multiplayer? Because let's say Concord 2 years from now isn't looking healthy, and then rather than bin it off, they've got it on PC already. That could make its way to Xbox. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. Something like Spider-Man, I think Spider-Man is actually closer to an Indiana Jones, which is that because Sony owned PlayStation and Sony owned the Spider-Man license, I don't think you'll ever see that on an Xbox because of licensing. Because that's why Marvel have to license the character, even though it was their own creation. Because they sold those rights to Sony 20 years ago, and they still have them, right? So I think in that specific case, I think there is a few edge cases. The one that really interests me, now looking at what's happened with indie, is Blade.
100% Blade will be the same. I'll be surprised if Blade is not a simultaneous launch after this. In the waters.
Yeah, I could see Blade still having an exclusive window, but that exclusive window is similarly short. Now we've seen
I just don't see the...
No, I know. I certainly don't.
We need some clarity. Like, unfortunately, the interview with Phil Spencer was done by Xbox, so it wasn't good.
Really,
it would have been nice to say, what's the thinking behind the time scale?
What's the thinking behind the time scale and why this game? And I wonder actually, because it's a Lucasfilm Games. They're the brand that have obviously then given Star Wars Outlaws to Ubisoft Massive, which is a multi-platform game. I wonder if they hadn't given it to Bethesda and Machine Games, obviously this was still in and around the buyout kind of time, if they picked a different studio, I think Indiana Jones would have been multi-platform from day one and will be coming out next year.
It's an interesting...
I do think there's an element of edge case here to it.
I think, knowing Phil Spencer as I do, I think he would... give the developers the choice. I think he will have said to them, "We need a game to go to PS5. Are you happy to port Indiana Jones? How do you feel about because I think it's like Todd Howard's pet project as well." And if they were like, "No, we want this exclusivity window," I think they will have had some level of decision making about Starfield and when that goes. And I think if it was a different team, like you say, potentially it could have had a longer exclusivity window, or it could have been simultaneous as well. Yeah, especially if they've done it a bit like
Helldivers, like Sony did with Helldivers. It became a second party deal. You could see that happening, couldn't you? Like they do a deal with another developer, but look what Xbox did with Toys for Bob. They're going to be using an Xbox IP. They've divested. They're making a multi-platform game, but it's using Xbox IP. So
one thing which came from this show was Towerborn is not a simultaneous Xbox release. It's not even a PC Xbox release. It's
PC early access, isn't it?
Steam early access.
Yeah.
And apparently the developers asked for that specifically, and that it was all developer decision rather than anything else. So
yeah.
Unfortunately, we'll never know. There's lots. I'm sure lots of reasons behind it, and probably we'll never find out. But it will be interesting to see. I suspect it will review better for people knowing it's coming to PlayStation shortly after Xbox, and I think there'll be a lot more hype about it because it's
a PS5 game now. Which that's the real fundamental problem with people like Dreamcast guys, isn't it? Is that they're just chicken shit. They're not consistent at all with their opinions.
It wouldn't surprise me at all. Like Black Myth Wukong, if it comes out on Xbox and people like Dreamcast guy say it's got performance issues, the Xbox version's not optimized very well. I'm gonna wait for the PS5 Pro version, which is going to play brilliantly, and
it just enables the discourse, the console war stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just jumping into chat, Plugsocket coming in here saying, oh, also, good evening, Ryan. Good to see you. Plugsocket coming into chat saying, have you heard about Xbox and PlayStation choosing to not have physical consoles in the future generations, but instead a virtual machine that you run on your PC? No physical games seems dystopian. This is something we talked about a little bit in previous episodes where, we're both big fans of the physical copies. We advertise, I need to go this way. Beyond Good and Evil behind me. You've got Oblivion, your review copy of Oblivion behind you there. But I think that, I certainly, have used Game Pass a lot, which is all digital. I tend to buy most of my games digitally now. There'll just be a few things like collector's editions I might pick up physically. I think there's always going to be room for that, much like vinyl has carved a niche for itself. But I think for the sake of efficiency, and as internet speeds get better, I think we're inevitably going to see these consoles become, supported by the cloud. Not in a, necessarily, wasn't sure about the virtual machine thing. I think there will be some element of a box still dedicated to that. But the idea that the power of that box is going to really leverage the cloud to enhance its abilities.
I think as soon as, because of the Xbox cloud thing on the Fire Stick apparently isn't great. As soon as you can get a stick, HDMI stick, that lets you play Xbox games on the cloud, all the games are available, there's no latency or minimal latency, that will be it. I think the hardware will die as straight away as soon as that's viable worldwide, which we're a long way from. Still like 10 years plus, in my opinion.
At least one more console generation of a traditional box that has those features, maybe. I feel like it'll be like a sort of Wii U to Switch. It'll be like a stepping stone to it.
And there'll still be a place for a handheld, like big, large format screen, like a Switch or a ROG Ally or Steam Deck. That would be what the hardware is, I think. There'll be a handheld one, or you can put it on your TV and it will be cloud. This
should be an episode of System Link at some point. Us looking at the complete explosion of the handheld market. Since Nintendo took away the DS and went Switch, all their game development now is on one platform. The Switch opened the door to the Steam Deck, and the Steam Deck has blown up. That thing is massive. And there's such a huge market, like enough for PlayStation to shit out a remote play device that has apparently sold incredibly well, better than PSVR 2. Different cost implications, so not really a fair comparison. But the notion of demand, right? The idea of what people are into, this need for stuff on the go, or the ability to be flexible in your house, has now become an enormous market. It's such a shame that Vita came out when it did, because I think the Vita would be massive now. I really do think that. It would be enormous. It's just fascinating, isn't it, how that trend can change. And Nintendo arguably started that in 2017 with Switch, and Valve then took that next step with Steam Deck.
The problem with the Vita, though, is that it had to have its own games designed for it. It needs to be able to play, like the Xbox handheld supposedly will be able to just play all your Xbox games. It has to be that. It can't be developers have to make handheld games for it, which was the Vita. I know a lot of them were kind of the same game on Vita, but they still needed like a different development team, or
and had to be scaled down and
buy it twice.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a different game. Like, it wasn't just Killzone 3 on there from the PS3. It was Killzone Mercenary. It was its own game.
Yeah.
Because out of necessity, they had to. That's where, like you say, that's what Nintendo did with Switch, wasn't it? They got rid of their mobile development for handheld, and all their resources for development. Every game made was just a Switch game. It's why the Switch library is enormous, I think, because they've got they are developing for one platform. And the only way that Xbox or PlayStation, if they choose to do it again, but the only way for Xbox to make that viable is to do exactly what you said, which is that those games are natively playable on that device, or their cloud streaming is so good that it feels like you're playing natively, and they can then get away with it being a bit cheaper. But we're over a decade away from that even being close to viability, full viability. They still call the cloud gaming a beta. It's still called that.
Well, so it does feel like a beta as well.
Yeah,
it's impressive to an extent, but apparently there's better versions out there. It's not even the best in class anymore, which it was like 5 years ago. It was best in class.
It sparked that push for the tech to improve, which is hopefully Xbox will continue to jump on. So we've got a couple other games here. I'll put it on in the background as well. This actually wasn't a game, it was a series. It was an animated limited series, Secret Level, from Tim Miller, the former director of the first Deadpool film. This was a really wholesome moment at Gamescom. He got very emotional announcing this.
It's like a big guy as well. Like
and he really sort of
looks like he wants to knock you out.
Yeah, I felt like he was about to be like, going to challenge me to some fisticuffs, and then he was like, "Oh, I'm getting emotional twice." He got emotional twice.
Yeah.
I'll put it on so you can check this out, but it's
got some good audience support, didn't he?
Gamescom, wholesome vibes. I mean, Jeff cultivates that, there for sure.
I have a lot of time for the different in this case because he's running the show, but where the development team send out someone who's good at public speaking as opposed to someone who's just like they should try to get someone who wants to do it rather than
yes, but then it can go too far the other way where you send like a PR person to do it, where it's like welcome to the showcase, like they're confident but corporate.
In the summer one there was a couple of annoying people.
Yeah, for sure. Whereas he, being a film director, he obviously has had to do pitches in Hollywood to get funding for films, so there's a certain degree of confidence needed. It's very different when you're talking to an audience of hundreds of thousands, but I think just the fact that it was just a dude talking clearly, comfortably, and allowing that emotion to come through made this a really, really special moment. I didn't realize it was from, I forget the name of the show. Again, we've got memory tonight. It's a robot something. It was an animated show. It was an anthology that evoked this from the same creator. But anyway, the idea of having these sort of these
We've been working on
episodes that each tell a self-contained story from a recognizable license in gaming. What a fantastic idea. And the fact that Prime have snapped these up too. Netflix got the other one. Prime have got this. Very, very effective choice by them to capture this market. I could very much see this being a show that runs for sure.
And you can watch the series.
Any of the games in particular that stood out for you?
Sifu.
Enjoy.
Sifu was one. I love that PlayStation series. That was really cool. I think we see a bit of Warhammer in here, don't we? I think that's these guys. That's it, yeah. So we see a bit of Warhammer in here, which is very cool. Space Marine 2 is probably my most anticipated game of the year now. So
there were a couple of weird ones, weren't there, that you get the impression have basically been paid for.
Concord was one that was odd to me.
Concord, Crossfire is a weird one.
You will open the door.
Unreal Tournament will be good from my point. I think that will be a really fun one.
Yeah.
To do.
But also, I like the way he pitched this too, and I hadn't thought about it until he'd said it. The idea that people look at often in the cutscenes in games and go, why is there not a movie of this? I've done that a ton of times where I've been like, oh, why isn't this just a TV show? They've literally just done that. They've taken the premise of like these great God of War in there too, which is really cool. They've taken the sort of premise of these fantastic story-driven games that we get now and just expanded them out into a feature-length episode of TV, which is just a fantastic idea. With a sort of like, there seems to be a consistency to the art style, even though the games obviously are very different. They're portraying this there is a certain quality to this, which I think is really cool. Spelunky was also a real surprising one in there. I thought that was a really, really nice little left field inclusion.
Yeah. I think it compared to trying to do like live action stuff, like the overheads required for each game to do that stuff, having a consistent art style and things throughout will be really make it really work and make it a lot more viable than trying to build each of these. But I think if some of them are particularly successful, you could see them spinning off into series as a result of each one. You
could very much see like a sort of a spin-off and then a secret level original. It could be like have it within its own branding, maybe. They're really interesting and nice to have that on at Gamescom too. Jeff's normally pretty good with that cross-media stuff. There's been some pretty interesting projects like having, obviously Keanu Reeves and Cyberpunk. I think we see briefly in there as well.
He does a really good job of picking these characters out that do really well on stage and make like a Gamescom moment or because obviously Joseph Fares does it every time he comes on. He's had a few people that are like massive characters that maybe I think this is big enough, definitely big enough for Gamescom. But sometimes he has people on, and the game isn't necessarily that big a deal, but the person is kind of carrying the game, and it makes a real moment because they're such a character
and really passionate and showing vulnerability.
He does a good job of
choosing.
You really feel like he must talk to these people and kind of vet them and say, well, this guy's gonna it's going to do great on stage
Yeah,
and things.
and he's going to do those things that we said, which was the idea that them, not just being corporate speak, they're actually just speaking from the heart. They're sharing something that's passionate, but in a way that's not cringe. There's always this sort of like I struggle so much with the forced humor. He was very self-deprecating, I think, Tim Miller, in that too, about what he was feeling, and that helped endear us to him even more, which is great. It's just seeing passion on a stage, and I think now, having come off of the very sort of wrap up your award speeches fast Game Awards moment, and then Summer Game Fest being a bit uneven, it felt a little bit that felt like just a big advert, really. And if Game Awards is like it's not the Oscars, that's the DICE Awards, that's the equivalent, I think, for the more developer industry one is, I think, the equivalent of the Oscars. Game Awards is more like the MTV Awards, I think, really, as a sort of closer comparison. Gamescom is now the one. This is E3 for me now. This is the fan-centric event.
Not having ads throughout, because if it's a Jeff Keighley owned production, it's got ads all over the place.
Yeah,
Samsung ads, Game Pass ads. This didn't have any. Well, maybe there was one at the start. I'm not sure, but like in between each segment, the stuff was, this is Gamescom, the Gamescom environmental thing. This is the Gamescom, like, whatever, disability awareness stuff. It was all like Gamescom initiatives rather than
just
a
new monitor.
Samsung TV. Or,
yeah, absolutely. So another. I'm not particularly enthused by this because I've been burnt by the Peter Molyneux before.
I didn't think you would. I wanted your opinion on this. But I don't know, other than the movies. Did you like Black and White, did you?
I did. Yeah, Black and White was good. And the movies, I was obviously a huge fan of that game. I was a little bit of tickling my drama background there. I'll put up the audio as well, so we can have old
He's
Mr.
back.
Molyneux talking. Look at him coming out all chuffed. I thought this looked ropey as hell. This felt like it was too early to be shown. I know that GOG games tend to have that slight. There's definitely a sort of an appreciated jank to them, so I'm not sort of so snobbish to think that they have to always be perfectly polished like something like Civ. But I don't think this showed particularly well. The moment that clicked for me that I liked was the switch to taking on the character. I thought that was a nice idea. You sort of drop down into the world in third person.
Yeah,
that's a nice
concept. To make a game like that, didn't we?
Yes, we did. We did, and I think that maybe that's Molyneux's picked me to the post of that one, baby. You and me. Litigation.
So he came out, and I probably was similar to you. It was like Peter Molyneux again. Come on. He said, "What was I thinking making mobile games?" And that really endeared me to him. He's quite good at saying, "Oh, whatever. I've overpromised in the past and stuff." But normally he then goes on to make the exact same mistake again.
Which is the fundamental problem I have with him. You can be self-aware and then you just make the same mistake.
That endeared me to him. Also saying he's got devs from Fable and Black and White and Populous and Dungeon Keeper. The game kind of being a blend of all those things that he's best known for is really good. Graphically, I agree it looks ropey. From a gameplay perspective, I think it looks really, really good. It's definitely right up my street. And looks like a Peter Molyneux or like a Lionhead game, being able to pick the settlers up and kind of do weird stuff with them. Kind of the sky's the limit with what you want to do. I can see clearly where each of those games kind of plays into this
kind of DNA of it. Yeah, it was less the visuals and more I just felt. I think the design is a little ropey for me. Just the way you were interacting with stuff, the kind of the mouse is a little bit imprecise and shaky.
That's Peter Molyneux. I think that's just what you have to expect. I think maybe Black and White didn't have it. I don't know, but I feel like a lot of his other games have had that kind of. I don't know. It's supposed to feel like it's you doing it. It's supposed to be a bit imprecise in how you're controlling stuff.
But it looks so early. I think it was too early to be shown. I think it looks, a lot of the stuff in here looks very placeholder. And if you're on a stage this with an audience this wide, I just don't think this was ready to be shown yet. I think that's fundamentally where I'm at with it. It just doesn't look ready to me. to be shown off, just be showing off a vertical slice like this, like we've been saying from Indiana Jones.
Night is coming.
Show us something extended, please, because surely you're polished enough. I don't
It's a small
think
team though, isn't it?
it?
It's going to be an indie game. It's funded by Peter Molyneux. It's not going to be like a Black and White was EA. It's not going to have the team size that Lionhead had. I think you have to treat it like an indie game, and that will presumably go into early access and be ropey for a little while.
But that's interesting, because then that's difficult for me because of him. I struggle then to divorce this from his previous sort of PR blunders. I know I should take the game as it comes, just as it is, and take it at face value. But his over-promising is not just a bit. This is something we've seen time and time and time again, where he has waxed lyrical about lessons learned, but does it by also shitting on his previous project. And I don't think that's a particularly viable approach to make someone then trust you enough to invest in your new project. So I think there is there's an inherited bias there for me with this, that there's some issues with the way that it has been pitched. I don't think it showed particularly well here, but I certainly think the idea of him going back to his roots, and I do like the third person character switch, and the fact that he's bringing back so many developers from his previous titles. I think that's actually a really lovely and important thing to do for a man in his position, for sure. Certainly, so I've got something though completely opposite for me, which was probably one of my most exciting announcements from the show. Actually, was our very near the end. We had Mafia, the Old Country, out of nowhere. We knew that Hangar 13 were working on something, hoping that it would be Mafia after that fantastic remaster that came out earlier this year. Brilliantly done that. This is exactly what I'd want from this series, to come in and surprise me with a 1900 set prequel in Sicily, since confirmed that it's going to have like authentic Italian voice acting in it, with like you can choose that, so the entire game is then a bit like they did with Ghost of Tsushima. You had this sort of original Japanese VO in that as well. This is a very smart way to evolve this series. Seen some really sort of interesting screenshots that have come out since the game. Obviously, it's only a very, very brief teaser, thankfully, in engine. We don't really glean too much about the gameplay. More of a vibe, more of a setting, I think, here. I still think this did a better job of communicating those things, the vibe and the setting, than that Borderlands trailer did. Because that's the fairest comparison. They're similar length, similarly sort of vague in some senses as well. So I can't just, I have to acknowledge that for both if I'm going to be fair. But I do think this did a better job of nailing the aesthetic and the vibe of what this game is going to be. For sure. Mike, I don't know if this is coming through. Sorry, just really quickly on stream. Can you hear me? Yeah, I can't hear you. Yeah, so apologies for that. If it could be a stream issue or it could be a me issue, I'm not sure. I could hear you all throughout the previous game, but not here. Still on camera, still visual. The Discord call's still going. Just don't have any audio for you at the moment. Make sure I'm still connected here on my end. Yeah, all good.
Yeah.
There you go. I got you. You're back.
Yeah, I don't know. I just had to turn my mic off and on.
Classic
yeah,
switch.
Mafia looks great. I mean, I really like the setting. To be honest, that is the setting that I would prefer for a game. I think it's going to be really cool. I think they got a bit of criticism. Not criticism, but people are asking questions. Is it going to be authentic? And it seems like they are going down that route. So, yeah, I'll definitely be looking forward to that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a plug socket technical difficulties, but now solved. We did it. Keeping it pretty smooth for the most part here at System Link. So, and the final one I wanted to mention, I actually was really disappointed when this was in the pre-show. I think this deserved.
Yeah, that was my. Yeah, that's my main takeaway with this one. But considering some of the games that were included in the main show,
right.
This is quite a big deal.
So this
I don't know if it was a bit of a fuck you to Sony for not supporting Gamescom better. Because it's a PlayStation exclusive, isn't it?
No, Dark Pictures. This is available everywhere. So Dark Pictures is multiplayer.
Oh, okay.
But
Only
it's certainly
got PlayStation on the trailer, I think.
yeah, but it's certainly the kind of game that you'd expect from
Okay.
their platform. And Until Dawn, obviously was exclusive back in the day to PlayStation. So this is Directive 8020. This is the Dark Pictures anthology, a series that I absolutely love. Played through half of the first season already. First 2 games with my wife, and she thoroughly enjoys me shitting myself every time I play it. I think this was a fantastic tease for this series, and we already knew this was coming because they have a really cool precedent that they set with their games, which is that they tease the next one as a post-credit scene in the previous game. So this is actually, we've known that they were going to do a sci-fi spin-off called Directive 8020 for a long time, but we just hadn't seen anything from it. They've not gone cross-gen with it. It is current gen only. It is they're bringing back in some more sort of live action stealth gameplay. There's more systemic AI that's hunting you down. Some really interesting evolutions. It's Unreal Engine 5 as well, which is the first Dark Pictures game to be just Unreal Engine 5. So just a lot of reasons to be excited for this. And I think, again, getting it as a 2025 release just very soon. You know, it's another strong game for next year, and I'm definitely looking forward to this. So we got some good horror games coming out. You know.
The number of games they put out, and like I was saying earlier, the quality bar is always really high. So
yeah,
they do a great job.
The fact that we're getting Little Nightmares 3 and Directive 8020 from them in 2025 is impressive. So that pretty much wraps up our coverage of Gamescom 2024. Thank you everyone for sticking around. We'll be taking a short break, and then Mike and I are going to jump onto some Valorant. Obviously, I'll be shooting for those MVPs.
Probably will this time, yeah. I think playing twice a week is not enough to keep up with the...
I'm feeling limber. Let's get in there. Thank you again, everyone, for jumping into chat. So we'll be back shortly. Stick with us, and we'll be back with some more Valorant very shortly. Folks, and we are back for some Valorant. Mike and I, this is our obsession. This is our whole situation right now. Just loving it. Just gonna make sure I've got
and you're generally getting an extra session in than me each week. It's killing me. I can't keep up.
Yeah, those Burly Bird lives on a Monday are giving me the limbering up. I'm stretching out. See, we're aware of the time too. It's 11:10, so we won't, probably only do sort of one, maybe 2 games. We'll see how we get on.
Match found.
Who gets MVP?
But yes, I mean, if we get MVP, I'm hard Brexit. On streaming. I'm out of here. Thanks for the affiliate status. I'm wrapping up. I'm going trusty, just like you've gone with Sage. I've gone with Deadlock.
Yeah. I just know that the last 2 weeks I've noticed the level of the competition getting a lot higher.
Yeah.
I think we were playing the beta.
Yeah. Were you
And people
enjoying
were
that?
OP,
Yeah.
um,
Were you enjoying those
and
early
people
days,
taking
weren't we? I
advantage.
think
Yeah.
there.
And this happened with the finals. It happened with Knockout City. Some of the games that we play regularly. People just hammer the games, don't they? They play them every day for like 2 hours a day, and then you really get left behind.
Yes.
And very few games have good enough skill-based matchmaking to compensate for that properly.
Well, yeah, and I think you mentioned Knockout City. Certainly towards the end of that, when we were playing the rank modes, I found myself getting just regularly outclassed, even though I felt like I was pretty good at that game. I was still not able to compete, especially at that level. It just became untenable.
So look at these banners. Can't compete with those.
Can't compete. Can't compete with that. I need to update. I've just realised I need to update to Valorant. Stream info. Do like I can do this all from the app, which is very helpful. There we go. Lovely.
Taking a while.
Yeah, that is odd, isn't it? Looking at the levels, it's all over the place. 33 and 4. Yeah, I'm still loading. So are we end of round, do you think, maybe? It's just sort of...
Trust me.
Oh no, round
We
1.
can get this
There you go.
job done.
Someone was on a Switch. It's not on Switch.
You wish. What are we doing defending?
I love a JT
Speed
sound sensor, so we're going to go for that.
Sound sensor up.
Who's
There's
at A?
a little sort of, like, sneaky backdoor flanky route when we're opposite sides. I didn't realise this was here. There's another little lane going back there.
Oh yeah?
Looks clear for the moment. Risking an orb. Must have gone the other way. My sound sensor hasn't gone off yet. And it's single use.
Enemy spotted A. Here. Enemy
We're
spotted
potentially
A.
coming up on them now.
That's a kill. Right here.
Sensor tripped.
My sensor's been
Barrier
tripped,
deployed.
which means they're on the other side.
Okay.
I've blocked off that route here.
You blocked me off.
Oh, sorry. I thought I'd been following you. I've been following your old character.
Spike planted. Reloading.
Yeah, they're at B.
At B.
Reloading.
I've gone the backdoor Shady Deals route. I can see the spike. Oh, there's one here.
One
Okay.
enemy remaining.
Going for it.
What is it?
Drop in a smoke. Reloading.
Got it to halfway. Done.
Nice.
They're on a
Yeah, where was the fifth? Was he...
All
Do
is
you think he
well.
was on the phone? Maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Continue to give us vision, Silva.
I keep instinctively following the wrong guy. I'll make sure I stick with
Yeah.
it.
I didn't play as that guy for that long.
Yeah, I know. I don't. Just because I think it's your first guy. It's been a ridiculous week.
Just what I look like in real life, I guess.
It is, yeah. You know, very, very tall blonde with a ponytail. That sounds like you.
focus. Sound sensor up.
Moving in here.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I think there's someone here.
Yeah.
Someone just tripped my sensor, but I think they're dead.
Yeah. Guess that might have been the footsteps.
Clear for the moment. Clear here.
That
Yeah.
A is clear.
Yeah, we're good.
Spike
Other
planted.
side.
Enemy spotted
How do
B.
the lanes work? The green lanes.
It's a
You can only go in one way.
It's one way and it's a loop.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to make a move on this.
Yeah. Try over there, lads.
Got one.
One enemy
Hostile
remaining.
down.
Nice.
Here.
Ah. It's running. That's the problem there. I
This I might not get this done.
think you will.
Yeah, optimism
Got another.
wins. Oh! Yeah.
Nice.
Ultimate ready.
Well done.
Spike diffused. Returning to post.
Got the ultimate as well.
What do you say, drone? Ready to stretch your
Quite right
wings?
too.
I'm gonna upgrade to a guardian. Because we know
You're
we have a
sure
good time
to.
with that. Gonna cover the middle lane again.
Listening.
This is an entrance point here, so we don't have to worry about being flanked from the right.
Yeah.
Silence.
Clear so far.
Right, they've
Pushing
gone
up.
to A.
Enemy spotted.
Yeah. Do it. Let's go through. Let's do it.
Okay.
Like I never left.
Yeah. Guys here. Planting at A.
With you.
That's one down.
Spike down A.
I can hear
Rocco's
something to
coming
my
in from
left.
The other side.
Oh.
Yeah. Footsteps.
Yeah.
Hold them to their grave.
Oh.
Player standing.
Where?
They were dead in front. Nice.
Enemy remaining.
Oh, good flank by them there. Well done on that double. I tried to use my ability, look left, and they were both on my right, so I just got mashed.
Last round before
I
the
thought they were
switch.
flanking.
Buy the best
Yeah, you did
gear
well
before
there.
it's too late.
When there's that many of them, what can you do?
No, it's tough. I'm impressive that you got those two
I
kills
think
at
you
all.
softened up one of them.
I'm finding this is a good place for the sound sensor, just because
Yeah.
they often do try and flank through here, and it covers like halfway up into this corridor.
Joke's over! You're
Covers our
dead!
flank at least.
Multiple enemies
Oh,
A.
looks like they've all gone
A
to A
again.
again. Yeah. I recommend teleporter.
Yeah, it was good. Good fun.
My ult is ready.
Mind you, it looks like we...
Enemy spotted A.
I think there's guys here. About to come up on them, I think.
I
One down.
exactly where you are.
Two down. There's a third one there that I haven't been able to get.
Come from the other way.
Yeah. Keep him busy.
Spike
Oh, what
Behind
the
you.
hell? Ah,
last player standing. One
well done.
enemy remaining.
Oh, unlucky. You did so well there.
Should have done better. Nah, I should have done better with that.
That was crazy.
Took too long
Switching
getting around there.
sides.
I think it was the smart thing for us to do to flank, though, because we'd
Don't give them
done
time to
Yeah.
reposition.
the loop around was the right play in that position. The spiky boy's going that way. Let's try and cover their flank through here.
Yeah, as long as there's some people going with her.
Yes.
Where's the fifth?
Fifth has gone hard Brexit over to B.
I feel like we should probably stick with a spike.
Okay.
I don't know.
Take
It's
what
up to
we
you.
have.
I'll take the
I'm
flank.
not sure I'm not sure one person's enough with the spike, but
Nice.
Eliminated. Spike dropped.
oh, she's got the spike. Oh, she's delivered.
Ah.
Barrier deployed.
I have the spike.
There's a guy here.
Over there.
One tried to flank, but I've taken him out.
One at the back here. What's
Oh,
it?
yeah. Whoa, you nearly Rexed him.
How'd you tag?
D-pad up. D-pad up for location. Double tap
One
for an enemy.
remaining.
It's quite a powerful ability. He needs to get the spike down. Just get the spike down, it'll draw him in.
30 seconds left.
Oh, okay. Oh, twiddly.
Remember what worked and test them again.
So sorry. Oh, they've all gone B side. Okay. Joining you.
Sound sensor up.
I'm with you. You might be able to get a good flank here. Oh, there's a guy behind me. Oh, you saved my bacon. Behind us, possibly. Behind us.
Ow.
Got him.
One enemy remaining.
Oh!
I know exactly where you
Damn
are.
it. He was flappy do then, Andrew. Nice.
Looks like I was the stronger.
I think we got this wrapped up. I love the twiddler. It's horrible to cut to, though.
Match point.
That's why
Yeah,
I have to watch them doing that
it's
rather
like-
than cut to their view.
Kick him in the shin.
That is unpleasant.
My shorty.
Oh, yeah. I'm with you.
Reloading.
We have no bullets left.
Only got 6 bullets left.
Yeah. Speak for yourself. I did an extra one at the start. Somebody got 5 left.
Yes.
Looks like they've gone to B. Oh,
Revealing area.
guy here on the corner.
There they are.
Hold them.
Oh, my flank. I've tethered one.
Have one of these.
Yes, got it. Nice jump. You avoiding the dart thing then. Oh, in the nads.
Dust.
2 on 3.
Spike planted.
Oh, fuck.
That was smart.
My ult
Maisie
is
boy
ready.
just took one out.
Refreshing.
There's some more coming, I think, from where that gas is. Yeah, there's one behind there.
Last player
Lucky
standing.
fucker. He's gonna push on it.
Got good health.
Oh. God, he killed him quickly there.
I
Oh,
never left.
Go on.
God, that's amazing.
Back for good.
Oh, oh, so close.
If you
I
need
like his
them,
aggressive knifing at
call
the end.
you
That's
need.
great. Actually, I think I might go for a machine gun this time.
Reloading.
Gone for a vandal rather than a phantom this time.
Through the calm, I see.
Through the storm, I fight.
Critical hit.
There's definitely guys here. Yep. Oh, he's close. He's close. Yeah, well done. Well done, well done. Hey! Thank you very much. I'm trying to waste a life. Behind us.
No escape.
Up high.
Oh, he moved up.
Enemy remaining.
I'm down. He was hiding behind the crates on that left corner.
I got him, I think.
Damn it. Thank you for the revive, though. Much appreciated.
Yeah.
Strange Poodle can hear him. Oh, nice! Got the last one.
Attackers win.
Excellent stuff.
Won't be enough.
There it is.
Oh.
Ah, well, you know.
I'd say 9-6 is better. You've got the assists.
Yeah, you know, sort of helping my team. Makes me sort of the assist MVP, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah.
Just well, we'll have to wrap it there, folks. I think for tonight's stream, we're coming up on 11:30. But thank you for tuning in. It was lovely to see such a great engagement in the chat. That was really nice to see. So thanks everyone. Thank you, Hope. Oh, look at that positivity coming in at the end there. That was close. Good job. Thanks, Hope. Coming in, just turning it around last minute, so appreciate that. Plug Socket, tune back in at the end. Good to be here. Yep, always great to have you. Thanks everyone for jumping on tonight. We'll be back on Monday for another Burly Bird Live. And as Mike pointed out to me, I need to put this together. I need to put together some graphics for this, but the Burly Bird Next Gen Arcade.
Get down there.
Get down there, man. Laser Quest Hemel Hempstead. We are there. We're a permanent fixture down there now. You know, if you're looking for some quick, easy multiplayer games with your friends and you fancy some laser tag afterwards, there is the best place to do it in Hemel Hempstead. So please do consider jumping in and checking that out. Thank you, Plug Socket Goated Setup. I know you came down today and checked that out. So thank you, man. I really do appreciate it. It's great to see you. Take care, everyone. Have a great rest of your night. And we will be back on Monday with another Burly Bird Live. Take care, folks.
See you later.